In the previous sections, anytime we focused an element, we relied on the built-in browser focus ring to style that element for us. The focus ring is great because without it, it's impossible for a keyboard user to tell which element is currently focused. In fact, the WebAIM checklist specifically states in section 2.4.7 that it should be visually apparent which page element has the current keyboard focus as you tab through the page. But sometimes the default focus ring may not fit in well with your design. For instance, here I've got a blue focus ring on a blue background, so it's just really hard to see. And in some cases, the focus ring can kind of awkwardly wrap around elements, as we saw in our Lesson 2 radio group example. So we need a way to change the appearance of our element, and we'd like that change to happen only when the element is focused. To do this, we can use the focus pseudoclass. The focus pseudoclass only matches when an element has focus. To change the appearance of our focus ring, we can then use the outline property. Here I'm using the outline property to change the appearance of the focus ring to a 1-pixel dotted white line. Now some developers choose to remove this style altogether by setting the outline property of the element to 0 or none. And this by itself is a major anti-pattern. Without a focus indicator, how is a keyboard user supposed to tell which item they're interacting with? If you're going to remove the focus ring because you don't like how it looks, then you need to replace it with another consistent focus indicator so a keyboard or switch device user can navigate your page. Using that example from before, let's look at how we can provide our own alternative focus indicator. So you might be familiar with adding hover states to your controls using the hover pseudoclass. Here I've set my buttons to have a red background with white text and a text underline whenever they're hovered. You can actually see this in practice as I go and mouse over the items in my page. So a simple solution of removing the focus ring and replacing it is just to give your element the same hover and focus styles. I can do this by adding another line to my block of CSS here that uses the focus pseudoclass. Now because the hover style might not make it obvious which element has focus, I'm also going to write a style specifically using the focus pseudoclass. This style right here is going to remove that default focus ring and replace it with a colored box shadow. Now you might be wondering, why use a box shadow instead of just changing the color of the focus ring? Which is a really good question. Because the various browsers out there style the outline property slightly differently, just changing the color might not always produce a consistent experience. Using a box shadow here, I know that I'm going to get a consistent focus indicator across the different browsers. Now as I tab through the page, it's much easier to tell which element currently has focus. Let's use the same technique to fix up the radio group example from Lesson 2. I'll start off by removing this sort of awkward wrapping focus indicator by setting the outline to none using that focus pseudoclass. And then I'll use a focus style to just target my before pseudo elements. These are what actually produce our little radio circles here. I'm going to give those radio circles a blue tinted box shadow. So now when the user presses their arrow keys, it's very obvious which item currently has focus. So to sum it up, if at all possible, leave the default browser focus ring in place, as it's what many users have come to expect. If, however, the ring is clashing with your page styles or it's just awkwardly wrapping around your elements, then you can use the focus pseudoclass to provide your own custom focus indicator.